Hey Vintage, my name's Matt, and I am here in Mumbai today, and I'm with Scott and Wendy, who are a couple within our church family, and they're going to tell us why they're here in Mumbai and what they do here in Mumbai. So Scott, why are you here in Mumbai?
Well, Matt, the journey to come to Mumbai didn't happen overnight. It really started a long time ago for me. I felt called to go to seminary and to do something with my life, but I didn't know exactly what it was. In 2007, I read Romans 10, and it really changed the course of my life. I read about how people, unless they are told, how can they hear? And how can they believe unless they're told about Jesus? And so my heart really started to be turned towards the unreached people of the world. In America, so many people have had the opportunity. Doesn't mean everybody accepts, but a lot of people have the opportunity. And so I really began to just have a calling specifically to unreached people, so that when I left America, I was going to go somewhere to a people group, to a city that, and generally, for the last few hundreds of years, a lot of hundreds of years, that they haven't had an opportunity to hear about Jesus in any way. So that was really the big part of my call that pushed me to go to seminary and to know that I was going to be going for missions.
What about you, Wendy?
Well, my journey also began quite a few years ago. I was actually in the 7th grade and went with my church youth group to a trip in Birmingham, Alabama, and the whole focus of the trip was on missions and people out in the world who were sharing the gospel. And by the end of that week, that trip, I just knew as a 7th grader that God was calling me to move overseas one day. And it was a few years after that. I was 15 years old, and I was in one of my friend's cars. We were going somewhere. I was sitting in the back seat, and on the floorboard of her car, she had, we called them lost people trading cards. They were like baseball cards with all sorts of people's faces and stuff on the front, and on the back it told you about the people. And I picked up one of these cards, and it had two children's faces on it, and it was something about their eyes that really captivated me. Just, they seemed so lost and helpless and hopeless. And when I flipped it on the back, I realized that these children were Muslim. And before that point, I'd never really thought about Islam or the fact that there are so many Muslims in the world who don't know Christ, and they've been led astray. Many of them are living in darkness, and from that moment, God just really grabbed my heart about the Muslim people, and I knew that one day I would live somewhere where there were a lot of Muslims, and I would help tell them about Jesus.
And so the third part of our call is that when we got together, we met each other in New Orleans, and we began to attend seminary. We actually, the first Sunday we were a couple, we attended church where Rob was speaking. Rob was the new pastor. And through the whole journey of Vintage, we've been with them. And we just really fell in love with working in a city. We really loved the different people living right next door to each other, just the atmosphere. And we also took an urban missions class together, and we just heard about the need and the amount of people that are moving away from the rural and into the city. And we just thought, a lot of people think of missions in a rural setting, but we wanted to go somewhere that was very urban. And we couldn't have gotten more urban with 20 million people.
Yes.
And so we've ended up with our call being confirmed and combined, so that we are here in a city where we work among unreached people that are Muslim in a big, big city. So that's how we have ended up in Mumbai, through the combination of our individual calls to our call as a couple. And so we're just really excited that God brought us to a place where we can fulfill all of those.
All right, so now that you're in Mumbai, a very big city, what do you do here in Mumbai?
Well, there's several things that we can do to engage people. One of the ways that I practice a lot is just going out and trying to start conversations, turn them spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually have a few tools that go beyond just going out and trying to engage people on the street. We try to get into people's homes. And so some women in our company actually came up with this really great way to engage women, Muslim women. And Wendy's been blessed to be a part of a few of these, and so she just wanted to share a little bit about what that's like.
Yeah, so first of all, when people think of India, most of the time they think of Hindu people, and our country is predominantly Hindu. But for Mumbai, there's about 17% Muslims here in the city. That's about 3 million people, and half of those people are women. And the truth is that most of those women are uneducated, they're illiterate. You can't just hand them something about Jesus because they can't read it. And so they've developed a way to get into the home and share the gospel with Muslim women, and it's through the henna art that they do on their hands. In India it's called Mehndi, and they've developed a way to tell Bible stories through Mehndi art. And so we've been able to start several Bible studies here in Mumbai and all over India, working with women and sharing the gospel through Mehndi art. They've developed a book, actually, that we're able to use, and it's just a great tool to share the gospel with women. They have the stories written on their hands, and it helps them not only remember the Bible stories, remember about Jesus, but also then share with other people about the design that's on their hand.
What about you, Scott?
Another thing that we've been really able to plug into is that there is a network of people who've come out of a Muslim background and are trying to train and equip the church in Mumbai to reach out to Muslims. It's NSOE. It's just it's a training for neighbor evangelism, which is the term we use for Muslims here. And what this does is it gives people tools that they can get into conversation and also answer a lot of the things that Muslims would normally have about our faith that would be really challenging to everything they've been taught. And so it's done a really great job of mobilizing and informing and actually just helping to open the eyes of a lot of the churches in Mumbai. A lot of the churches in Mumbai are either from Catholic background, Christian background, but that were nominal, and also a bunch of Hindu background believers. And in these cases, all of them share this idea that Muslims are feared. And so to get them sharing their faith is a really great thing, and we're really excited about a lot of the opportunities this has brought. They can consider me as part of the team. I go a lot of the meetings, and they have them in different areas of the city. Since it's such a large city, you have to have it strategically in different places so that people can make it to the training. But our heart is actually a little different. What we hope to see in the future is a growing Urdu-speaking background church, which Urdu is the language of Muslims, and many of the people who come to Christ out of Islam actually just go right back in and join Hindu background believing churches, Christian background believing churches, Catholic background believing churches. And the culture is so different, coming from an Islamic faith where when you sit down and talk about the Quran, they never let the Quran touch the ground. When they open the Quran, they open it up with it's wrapped in a cloth. They have so much respect for the Bible. They have so much respect for the Quran, so that when they come into our Christian faith and they attend a service where everybody's jumping up and down, where they set their Bibles on the ground, it can be very jarring, which isn't to say that they should keep all of their culture, but it's to say that how can we see people come to Christ and in their own cultural understanding have Bible studies in their homes, have churches that form together that are glorifying God in a way that actually doesn't repel new believers that are coming out of the Muslim background. So that's our heart, is to see Urdu-speaking churches throughout Mumbai worshiping and praising the true Isa Masih, is what they call Jesus in the Quran. And so we just really are, that's our heart. We love these tools that we're using, but that's our goal. And that's where we're really hoping to see, so that eventually we have to go somewhere else because there's such a vibrant church culture here.